So if you want to come back and check it out later, you can certainly do that. And you can always check out all the ELET webinars later on. Your facilitators tonight, I'm your instructor. I'm Ed McGee from Central Virginia Community College. The chat host, the official chat host, is Forrest Smith. He's from Germanna Community College. He does a great job. We've got a lot of other ELET folks on the chat as well, so they'll probably help you out as well. And in this presentation, I got a few additional tips and tricks from Wesley Kinsey. I think he's the new guy out at Germanna Community College, so extra thanks to him. What we're going to do tonight, we're going to go over organizing your dashboard, organizing your course, organizing your files, organizing modules. You're going to develop an assignment. We're going to provide quick, meaningful feedback. We're going to go over some tools for student engagement and reflection. That's a whole lot to get through, so we'll do our best. A couple of things before we start. This session is being recorded. We'd like to tell you that a few times early in the session. This session is really for novice to intermediate Canvas users. If you are brand new to Canvas, you'll probably be able to carry on pretty well. But you might have to go back and review the recording, something like that. This is not a straight up beginners session. If you are a Canvas expert, you might already know almost all of this. Good for you. Another thing I want to mention, not all VCCS colleges set up their courses the same way. So I'm going to show you some things that perhaps your college has already set up for you. And if that's the case, don't look at me and say, hey, how come we're not allowed to do that? Look at your ID, look at your distance ed department and say, hey, thanks for setting up that course for me. That's a whole nother session. I'm putting that in because those of you who are from the South or have lived in the South for a long time, you know what a whole nother means. We're going to hit the tips of a lot of icebergs today. So I can't go into depths with a lot of stuff. And when I say that's a whole nother session, it means we're probably going to do another session on it at some point, or we can go ahead and direct you to a session that we've already done to help you out. And finally, we're all 27. What does that mean? I'm going to go on a limb here. My stepdaughter recently, who's in college, recently told us that you're officially old when you're 27. Now, she qualified that to say that you're probably already old before you're 27, but it's official at 27. So if I say anything tonight about the old way we used to do things, or this is a little old fashioned or whatever, I promise you, I'm not telling you that you are a day older than 27. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is go through your Canvas dashboard. There's a lot of like quick and easy things that you can do. Now, you probably go to your Canvas dashboard every day, and you may already know this, but some of the things we might want to do is add a picture to a course tile, change your overlay color, change your course nicknames, and we might want to move courses or possibly hide courses, and we definitely sometimes need to find old courses. So I am going to go ahead and go to my Canvas dashboard. Okay, hopefully everybody sees that. All right, so as you see, my dashboard is going to contain all my published courses. Now I have a whole bunch of them because you know, I'm the ID at Central. Now, what we're going to use is we're going to use my sandbox tonight. Hopefully everybody has a sandbox. For this, you can use any course you want to. I am going to have you break out a little bit and do some work on your own. All right, so the first thing I want to do in my sandbox is I'm going to go ahead and change the name and the color overlay. And up here in the right-hand corner, you'll notice you have the 3 dots. 3 dots are called a kebab in the Canvas world. So if I click that, notice I can change my nickname into my course. And you know what I'm going to change it to? I'm just going to change it to Monday Training. All right, it already has an overlay color of this like kind of light teal blue. I'm going to change it to green. All right, and then when I'm done, I'm going to apply. So 2 things I want to point out. When you change your overlay color, your students don't see that. So please don't organize your courses and tell your students, hey, if you're in the green course, do this or that. They can change their overlay to anything they want it to be. Now, when they change their nickname, what happens is they will see, and when you change your nickname, they will see that. Now, why do we want to do that? For one thing, it's just visually quicker to
Hey,
get.
Ed.
Yes.
We're not seeing the changes you're making. I currently see your dashboard in Chrome.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Let's see what's going on. Strange. Okay, I'm just going to change to screen share. That might help. So hopefully you see now that this is green and I've changed my.
Yep, that looks much
Okay,
better.
good. Yeah, that's odd. Okay, well, anyway, my computer's been acting odd all day, probably because it's raining. All right, but let me go ahead and do that again. What I did is I went to the three dots, the kebab. I changed my color. This time I'll just change it to orange. And I changed my nickname from Sandbox, but I'll just call this Monday Night Training. Okay, so that does two things. First, my students will see Monday Night Training if they go to my course. I will see the orange overlay. Again, students can change that to anything they want it to be. And the reason why that's helpful, for one thing, it's visually easier to get back and forth to your classes. You know which classes are yours. If you have a class that's example like CB 292, whatever, it's easy to get them mixed up. So you could give them a nickname it's easy to get to. And I've noticed a lot of instructors, especially the ones who are doing synchronous, are now calling their classes like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 o'clock. And you know what? That makes a lot of sense to me, and it makes a lot of sense to your students. Another thing I did want to show you within your dashboard, and I get this question a lot, so if you already know it, I'm sorry. But if we go to courses, it's going to show us all our published courses. I'm going to choose all courses. Okay. And all of the courses that have colored stars beside them are the ones that are in my dashboard. So you notice I've got a lot of courses in my dashboard, for various reasons. So you see my Sandbox is starred. That's good. Now I've got these business classes that I was a TA in. What if I don't want them on my dashboard? All I have to do is click on the star. It goes clear, and these classes won't be on my dashboard anymore. And in the interest of time, while we're at it, these are active courses that I just removed from my dashboard. Please ignore the dates. If I scroll all the way down, you'll see past enrollments. So if I'm looking for an old class that is no longer published and no longer in the right term, and it's not in my dashboard, this is where I can go find it. So if I wanted to go back, example, to my ITE 115 for the summer class, this is where it would be if I wanted to go back and look at it. All right, so I get that question a lot. So just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. So I'll go back to my dashboard. And bam, notice those business classes are gone now. They're out of my way. The next thing I can do is I can also move things around. So I've got my course that I'm teaching right now. I've got the training course that we're doing right now. What if I wanted to put my faculty training course Growing with Canvas right next to there? All I have to do is drag it. So you can organize all your tiles any way you want. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a chance to go ahead and do that. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. So go into either your Sandbox or go into another course, whatever's handy for you. Oops, I forgot to do the picture tile. All right, hang on. All right. We'll actually do that in the next section. So just go ahead and change your overlay color and change your course nickname and move your files around. And I'm not giving you a full 2 minutes for that because we were going to do add a picture and I forgot to show you how to do that. So we'll do that next. So I'm going to give you 1 minute. And if you're not familiar with if you're not too familiar with Zoom, if you're having trouble getting to your Canvas course, be sure to hit escape and minimize your, or restore rather, your Zoom screen. That'll help you get to the other window. And hopefully everybody had a chance to look at that. If not, you can definitely go back and review the recording later. All right, so we're going to get into the course in just a second. So while I'm here, within your course, I'm going to show you all of this. The first thing you want to decide is what side links do you need for your students to see? And we're going to want to hide all those links that aren't necessary for students. Second thing is, do you have a front page? And this is an example of something that your institution may have provided for you, a standard way to do that. And it's okay if they provided that, then by all means, that's what you should do. We're going to decide how we want to present announcements. We're also going to talk about how to set up modules and a new time saver tip to use the new student view button to check your work. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Again, give me just a second. Let's make sure that I'm sharing. Sorry, I'm having to go back and forth to sharing my screen now. Definitely not the way. All right. All right, so I'm back in my dashboard. Hopefully everybody's seeing this. And I'm going to go into my course by clicking on it. Now, I'm going to go straight to my front page. And again, this is just a fake front page that I created. You may use modules as your front page. I wouldn't recommend anything other than an actual front page or modules. But what you would want to put here is information about the course, your contact information. I just want to share, be sure that your contact information is your preferred contact information for your students. Now that sounds pretty simple, but for example, if you're not in your office right now, you shouldn't put your office phone and location here, even though that seems to make sense. And I would also mention, I don't even like to put an email link here for myself. And my reason for that is because there are 3 McGees who work at Central Virginia Community College. So I require my students to use Canvas Inbox. So I direct them to that. So that's my preferred communication. And there can be other links here, such as to a syllabus, textbook, FAQ. I would say a permanent discussion board, not an assignment. If you had a discussion board that students are supposed to enter throughout the semester, this would be possibly a good place for it. All right, so now I know I'm going to go backwards on you just for a second. This is what I meant to do earlier. I'm going to go to settings. All right, so everybody with me? All right, under settings, under course details, I'm going to add an image for my course. So if I go choose image, I can just upload an image. I could drag and drop it, but this is just going to take me to my my pictures and my documents. Here's my cat. I'll just go ahead and put our new cat in there. Click open. And she's our little foster fail. Okay, and I want to update my course details. Be sure to scroll down and select that. So if I go back to my dashboard, now I have a picture for my course. All right, so getting back to where I wanted to be, the first thing we want to do is figure out what are these side links? How many of these side links do we want our students to actually see? Right now I have a home page, okay? One of the things I might want to do is to leave my announcements link, okay? So that way, if students click here, they'll see announcements. Now I'm gonna get to something extra tricky about that in just a second. Now I'm gonna want my students to see grades. And again, some of these things are things that students can't see anyway. All right, but I want to keep it as simple as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to settings. And this time instead of course details, I'm gonna go to navigation. And now everything that's above this paragraph is what students can see. So I can drag and drop things below. So if I don't want them to see my pages, I can just drag it. All right. I can drag discussions. And if that doesn't make sense to you, we're going to go over that in just a minute. I can drag assignments. I don't have to drag and drop. I can also just click the kebab and disable, and it'll move it. So the things I know I want, students can't see that. This might be all I want students to see right now. So everything that's above here, and again, lockdown browser, I'm just going to move it because students can't see it anyway. And I can scroll down and remember to save. You do have to save this. All right, so as I go home, you'll see that in my front page, the only thing that's visible because it has a little I next, but that doesn't have a little I crossed out next to it are these for now. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention about your front page, be sure to have something to instruct your students on where they go next. Okay, so their first day of class, and this is one of those little things I was going to show you, is the student view. And that's not new, but what's new now is it's on every page. So I like to always check my work using student view. So I'm going to go up to my student view and click it. So this is what students would see. And the reason why I say make sure they know where to go from here, students have a bad habit, not a bad habit, a tendency to say, okay, where's my first assignment? It's over here to do. I'm just going to jump right into this. All right. But we may want them to do other things. We don't want them to go straight to their to-do list. So I've looked at that. I'm pretty happy with it. And at the bottom is where I leave student view. Remember, you go in at the top, you leave at the bottom. So I'm going to leave my student view. And I'm going to go ahead and go into my announcements. And notice I have a few announcements set up. And these are just things I made up for this class today. All right. Now, what if I want my students to see these announcements right when they come in? Back when we used to use an LMS that will remain nameless, a lot of people used to use announcements as their front page because it would be the first thing the students would see. We definitely don't want to do that. But what we might want to do is go into settings. Now follow me. I'll do it twice. Remember when we were in navigation? Remember we did this? I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. Oops. Of course, details rather. Oops. Sorry, it's late. All right, so under course details, I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to choose more options. They really hide this from you in this little tiny font under more options. And I can show my recent announcements on my course homepage. Now, you may want to do one, but what you don't want to do is any more than 3, because any more than 3 announcements will actually clutter up the page so much they won't see your page. So you'll end up with just an announcements page with a bunch of old announcements. All right, so I'm done. I'm going to click update course details. If I go back to my home page, now I have my recent announcements. Now, I personally like to keep just do one announcement and then have my announcement link available. So that way my one announcement is the one that students really pay attention to. They don't start ignoring it, but then they can still go over here and review. All right, so let's get into modules. We had mentioned what we're going to do in modules. So this is what modules looks like. Hopefully we've told our students how to get here. And my first module is one I created, and you know what it is? One messed up module. All right, so we're going to fix this. What we want is for students to be able to navigate through the modules as easily as possible. So look what we've got here. We've got the first thing they're going to get is some very confusing instructions. All right, so for this model, what do we want? We want them to review the untitled PowerPoint, participate in the messed up discussion board. That's due on January 27th. I decided just to put it in text here. Complete the convoluted assignment that is also due, but that's due January 29th. Notice these dates do not show up anywhere in my calendar or my students' calendar or anything. I'm going to tell my students to go find the instructions for the assignment on the course resource page. There's no telling where that course resource page is at, and be sure to review the requirements in a completely separate document called the rubrics document. Oh yeah, and by the way, we have chapter 2, so be sure to review those lecture notes and complete the chapter 2 quiz due January 31st. Now this is actually obviously pretty bad, but I tried to make every possible mistake I could when I did my instructions for this. What we really want to do, let me go back to my modules. And while I'm going through this, notice I have a document. It says chapter 2 lecture notes, summer 19 docx. Now, those could be perfectly good lecture notes, but you know your students are going to look at this and say, lecture notes, summer 19, is this what I'm supposed to look at? And then we have 2 support articles that are not named anything important. What we really want to do is make our modules look like I did in week 2. Okay, so I'm going to have an introduction. All right, I'm going to have a PowerPoint lecture if I wanted to. You don't have to do that. There are a bunch of different ways you can do that. But notice I've indented my PowerPoint so my students know it belongs to the introduction chapter. I have an assignment. It's called Why to Use Rubrics. All right. And it has a due date. So now this due date is going to be on everything. It's going to be on my calendar. It's going to be on my students' calendar. It's going to go on their to-do list. And what I've done also is I've created an introduction to chapter 2. There's no law saying you can only do 1 chapter a week. You can do 2 chapters a week. And I've done the same thing. I've created assignments and they're well named. So students can go straight through week 2, 1 step at a time. I've also got additional resources. Now, I'm telling you over and over again that you should try to always have your instructions and all your links attached to your assignments. But what if we have special additional resources that we just want students to be able to access? I went ahead and added a divider here, a text header, so they would know that's what that's for. So let's go ahead and fix this a little bit. First thing I want to do is change this name. How do I do that? I'm just going to go all the way over to the kebab, click edit. I'm just going to call this the introduction module. When I update it, it's called introduction. Here in the introduction here, I don't want to put all my instructions for what students should do. And there's a few reasons for that. I know we'd like to believe that students are going to walk through and read all of the instructions, and then go find the document, and then go find the link, and then come back to the assignment, and then do the assignment exactly the way they're supposed to, but they're not. And that's not just because they're not reading enough, it's because they're not used to that. They've never seen anything like that. That might make more sense to us, but it doesn't make sense to them. So what we're going to want to do is I would actually come in here, and instead of these instructions, possibly just give them a little introduction to this module. This is a really good place where I might add some objectives. Okay. So if I want to fix this, I'm going to click edit. I'm not going to bother with all this. And I'm going to say I'm just going to call it chapter 1 introduction. Save it. And if I go back to my modules page, notice we have our introduction module, and underneath it is a chapter 1 introduction. Now, let's say I definitely want this document with my lecture notes for my students. This is something I want them to access right after they get the introduction. That's fine, but I'm going to do 2 things. First thing I'm going to do is come over and edit. I'm going to click edit, or click the kebab first, click edit. And notice that big ugly title. I'm just going to change it to chapter 1 lecture notes and update it. The next thing I'm going to do is I want this to be attached to this. I know I spelled it here and put the number here. I wouldn't normally do that. I'm going to click edit, or not edit. I'm going to click the kebab again, and I'm going to increase my indent. So now I've indented and it's below chapter 1. So that suddenly makes a lot more sense to my students. One of the things, probably one of the great divides from those of us who are just turned 27 and are current students, is that we're probably really used to using folders from previous experiences. Students who are in college these days don't use folders for presentation. They use folders maybe for storing things, but they're used to seeing things lined out. And if you're going to have them access something, they're going to want to link, because that's just what they're used to. And frankly, it's easier. Yeah, next thing we're going to do is, I'm not going to bother to, well, we'll go ahead and rename one of these just to make sure everybody knows how to do it. I've got an article here. I'm going to click edit. Instead of this ugly name article 1, I'm just going to say rubric article. And the reason why I'm using rubrics a lot is because I still have assignments for rubrics in my sandbox. So it makes sense. All right, so I have that. And then let's just say that we have a discussion here. All right. Now remember I said I wanted them to do an assignment, right? Now I've hidden my assignments and I've hidden my discussions. I don't want them to have to come over here to get to these things. I want them to do their assignment and their discussion right here in this introduction. And the way I do that is I'll come over, click. I've already created an assignment. We'll just call it chapter 1 and add the item. Now that goes to the bottom. So I can drag and drop that up to wherever I want it. I want it right under my notes. Okay. And I could indent this if I wanted it to line up that way. So I will increase my indent. And the next thing I'm going to do is, remember in my introduction, I wanted them to do a discussion board. I'm going to click here. Again, I've already created this, so I'm going to add a discussion. We'll just say discuss things. All right, and once again, I want to move this up to where I want it. I'm going to always publish here. I click the green check, click increase my indent. So that way, all of this falls in a line together. And finally, the last thing I want to do in modules right now is I'm going to add a text header. See, this doesn't make perfect sense because students do this. They do the introduction, they go through the lecture notes, they do the assignment, and then they do the discussion. All right. These are my additional resources. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to go ahead and add a text header and just call it resources and add the item. And of course, I'll have to move it to where I want it and publish it. Okay, so now I've made my really ugly module a lot prettier. And hopefully students will understand it better. And again, when they go to their assignment, they don't go somewhere else for it. They go directly in line where it belongs. And when they do their discussion, it's right in line where it belongs. They don't have to go to another place. So always the last thing I do before I finish doing a module or any page or anything like that is I go over and click the student view up here at the top. So I can see how it looks to my students. And this is how my students see it. And remember, we want to keep these links to a minimum, and that just keeps them from being confused. They know that this is where their work is at. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. Oops. And let's see if I can fix this now. Okay. So what I would like you to do is now I want you to try. So please create a module if you don't already have one. Add a file to the module and change the name of it. Add a page or any other element. It could be another file if you want to, and indent it. Add a text header within your module. Be sure to publish the module and be sure to view the module, your modules that you have or module in student view by clicking the little glasses up at the top right-hand corner. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to play. Okay, about 30 seconds. I know that's not a whole lot of time. Just make sure you know how to do these things. And remember, you can always go back and review the recording. And okay. All right. Next thing we're going to do is go over files. Now, thing about files, this is just one of those things that I've seen that some people make the mistake of. The file space is yours. It's not for your students to browse around in. Your students shouldn't be accessing it. That's for your use. They shouldn't have to go in and find files there, and they frankly shouldn't be flipping through your files because it, if you're like me, then you've probably got old files in your course that you're going to update or use or something. We'll also mention there are two file areas. One is for the course you're in, and one is for all of your files. I'll show you that. That'll just be really quick. A little time saver tip. If you've got a course and you've got a bunch of stuff, batch upload all your files at once. I'll show you how to do that. And if they're big files, you can do that and go get yourself a sandwich and come back and all your files will be in there. And finally, use all the folders you want. It's your area. And actually, you should use folders to organize things for yourself. What we don't want to do is hide things in folders from students. And that's what they say. They say it's hiding it from them. This is for organization, not for presentation. So again, just to play it safe, I'm just going to share my whole screen. So let's go ahead and go into files, which as you see, I've got hidden from my students. I'm just going to quickly show you these things. And now this makes perfect sense to anyone who's used Windows or any other computer application. I have my course. And I have my images, I have my uploaded media folders, which are perfectly fine. And I have these files. Now, if I want to upload things into my course, I can just click upload. All right, I'm in and just choose documents, and I can choose as many as I'd like. So if I wanted to upload these 3 documents, I can open. All right, and I've actually already uploaded one of them. Click skip. But that was just a quick and easy way to do it. I just uploaded files that I've already uploaded. Sorry about that. But that saves time. But if they were big files, I could walk away and come back and all my files would be here waiting for me. Now I can organize things in folders. So if I want to click a folder, click plus, it's the same as always. I'm just going to call it my training folder. Check. All right. Where is it? It's right down here. And if I want to put a file in this folder, as I go over, I'm going to put links in my folder. I can come over and click the kebab. I'm going to choose move. Where do I want it? I want it in my training folder, and I can just move it. So if I click my training folder, my links document is in there, and I have my navigation. So that's a real easy way to upload all your files before you actually put them in your course. The other thing I was going to show you is this is just for the course. If I go into my account, I can choose files. We're not going to go too heavy into this, but notice in my files, you'll see all my courses, and I can go find my files in any course from my accounts. Okay. Next thing I want to do is assignments. A couple of cool things about assignments, things I want you to know. Always add a due date using Canvas. Do you remember what I did earlier where I showed you where I added my due date in the text? That's the only place students will see it. If you add a due date in Canvas using the Canvas tool, your students will see it in their calendar. They'll see it on their to-do list, and you'll see it on your calendar. Also, add or attach all instructions to the graded assignment. Don't do an assignment and say, go get the instructions. Why not just link directly to it or attach the instructions to it? Again, add all necessary links to the assignment as well. Don't add the link somewhere else. The other thing I'm going to show you is to add rubrics to graded assignments. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have used rubrics before and you understand the value of them. I'm going to show you how it saves time and you get better work from your students, even in low stakes assignments. And finally, our new time saver tip, if you haven't seen it before, you can actually batch edit the assignment dates. So if you've never done that before, this is going to be pretty cool. So let me get back. Oops. Yeah, I apologize for whatever reason. I have to share my whole screen. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my modules. And I'm going to create an assignment for chapter 1, another assignment rather. And to create an assignment, I'm just going to click the plus button. I'm going to go assignment. Click new assignment. All right, we're just going to call it training. and the item. There it is. I'm going to pull it back up under chapter 1. And remember what I did earlier, I published, I increased my indent so that these things are all in a line. And I'm going to go and create my assignment. All right, so to create an assignment, I'm going to click edit. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to say do your assignment. Those are the instructions. Now, in reality, if I were building this, I would want to give my students everything they need to know about the assignment here. All right. So even if it means attaching a document or linking to another document, I would do it here. I'm going to give it a point total. Okay. We have our submissions. I'm just going to choose online. And a text entry. I'm sure everybody's already done this before. We're going to skip over. And this is where I want to make my due date. All right. I don't want to put my due date up here. I want to put my due date here. All right. So I'm going to make this due on the 31st. And I could make it available during a certain time, but I'm not going to. All right. So I'm going to save it. All right. So I have this assignment. It says do your assignment. I know that's not much. Now, if you haven't done this before, I highly recommend it. Add a rubric to everything. I'm serious, even though it seems like a little bit of extra work now. Remember when I told you earlier, we're going to do time-saving things? Think about how many emails you get from students asking questions about how you're grading something, how many pages, how many this. I mean, I'm sure you have it in a document. If they read their assignments, if they read that assignment, they would know, but you're still going to get questions. So I'm going to click the plus rubric button, and I'm just going to change the title. I'm going to do this really quickly. As I said, we've got a whole nother session on rubrics if you ever want to look at it. So I'm just going to call this the training. And I'm simply going to put one criteria in here just so you can see how easy it is. All I do is click the little pencil. What's the description? Just say student does work and update. I can also change my ratings here. I'm going to just leave this as is for now and go over and say this is worth 100 points because that's how much the assignment is worth. And notice when I update this, it automatically updates my full marks. Now I can also add another rating. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. For 50 points, I could change this to anything I want. I'll just call it partial credit. I'll just call it partial for now. All right. So now I have a rubric with one criteria. I could add more. And it was just that easy. And again, if you do this with your low stakes assignments, you'll be surprised how many fewer questions you get and how much better work you get. All right, so we have some options here. Again, that's for another time. I'm just going to create it. All right, now remember when I said I always check everything in student view? So I'm going to go ahead and check this. I'm going to show you what a student would see. All right. And this is what I love about attaching a rubric and putting everything on the assignment. All right. So if I had full instructions here, my students, the last thing they see before they submit their assignment is all of the instructions of everything they're supposed to do. But the thing I really love is the other thing they see is their grading criteria right here. So they can go down the grading criteria before they even click this button. All right. So really, when they go into assignment, the first and last thing they see when they click on the assignment and before they submit it is all the instructions and the grading rubric. And when I started doing that, and this is just anecdotal, I started doing that last year. I have to admit, I only used rubrics for my high stakes assignments. When I started using it for the low stakes assignments, again, I got so many less questions and so much better work. So I'm going to go ahead and leave my student view. And I'm just going to show you this one more. Well, I can't really do it right here. Let me just remind you before we get into doing this. When you create your assignment, you're going to edit to create the instructions, but you're not going to be in edit mode when you create the rubric. The rubric, if you remember, was right down below. And if I need to do that again, I will. Well, sorry. For this assignment right here, I'll just show you again, chapter 1, since it didn't have anything. Well, actually, I do have a rubric for this as well. Oops. So anyway, all my assignments have rubrics now. That's how easy it is. So the next thing I wanted to show you, if we do have to go back into the rubric, I will. The next thing I wanted to show you is how to batch edit your assignment dates. Notice I've got an old assignment date here. And now we used to have to go click, go in, change the assignment date for each one. We don't have to do that anymore. And this is really cool. Here are all of my assignments. I went into assignments. I'm gonna click the little kebab and I'm gonna edit my assignment dates. Now I can just choose a date range of the assignments that I want to use. Okay. And remember this old assignment from last semester that says it's due on October 8th? All I have to do is click on it and come on over and change it to tomorrow. Chapter 2, I can do the same thing just as quickly. If these assignments aren't assignments I'm using anymore, I can just wipe them right off. I'll just leave that as is for now. I'll wipe that one off too. Okay, and then I just click save. So that way, it's a really quick way for me to change my due dates and my availability dates. And that's fairly new, so we're really excited about that. So if I go back to my modules, notice my chapter 1 with the old date has now been updated. And we'll go back to here. All right, so what I would like for you to do is create an assignment in your module. You can use anything you want to. Go ahead and add a due date and add a rubric with at least one criteria. And remember, as I said, you don't add the rubric in edit mode. You finish editing and then you attach the rubric afterward. And I'll give you 3 minutes. And we're about winding down, so hopefully you were able to create an assignment with a rubric. If not, I am going to go ahead and move along. We've only got a few more minutes left and a lot to do. Oops. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go into SpeedGrader and Gradebook, and I'm going to show you some quick, easy time-saving things to do in SpeedGrader and Gradebook. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to organize student submissions in SpeedGrader. We're going to grade using that rubric, and that's where you're really going to see your time saving and your meaningful feedback. We're going to organize your grade columns, or show you how. We're going to set a default grade, and that's a sneaky little tool if you've never used it, and send a message to students. Okay, so let me go ahead and get out of this one and come on back here. All right, so I am going to go ahead and grade an assignment called Why Use Rubrics that I put in earlier. All right, so notice I have an assignment with instructions. I have a rubric with 3 criteria. So I'm going to go to SpeedGrader. All right. Now, how many people have gone into SpeedGrader and you have to click through all these blank submissions? A lot of people don't realize this, but right up here in the settings, this is one of your time savers. I'm going to click here. And under my options, I can sort my, I can sort my submissions. So right now it's set to students alphabetically. I can change it to the date they submitted, so I grade them in order. But probably the thing I love is by submission status, needs grading, not submitted, etc. So I'm going to click Save Settings. Okay. And now in this case, I think I actually went into this, he's not a student, but it went into his thing and did something. That's why it went there. But if I, oops. Oh, that's the problem. Okay, I went past the test student. But if I organize it that way, that'll take me directly to my students who need grading. All right, so my test student came in here and submitted an answer to this question. All right. And when I grade, what I want to do is I'm going to click View Rubric, and this is my rubric from earlier. Give myself a little space here, just drag it over. Now, this is what's really cool, even in a low stakes assignment. The student says rubric set expectations for students and helps them do their work better, NAD and better work and no less questions. All right, so that's not very good. But in my rubric, it says student answers the question. I say, yep, he sure did. All I have to do is click on it. All right, so I've given the student 50 points for answering the question. He didn't answer very well, but he did it. Student gives an opinion. All right, student didn't really give much of an opinion here. So I could give 40, I could give 0. But instead, I'm going to just give the student 28 points. And I can tell the student why. I can just say, elaborate or something. I obviously would never say that. And again, really quickly, I can look at the grammar and spelling. The grammar and spelling is horrific. I would not accept that. So I might even just click a 0 here and automatically give them 0. Now I could, if I just thought, well, he spelled something right, I'm going to change that to a 3. That's perfectly okay. All right. So the thing is, though, what I've done is now save. Student's got an 81. I have it set up so I would add his grade. Click enter. So now what I've done, though, is I've given this student a grade, but I've also given them instant feedback of why they got their grade using this rubric. So I was able to point and click and change the student's grade or make the student's grade. I was able to enter a score and give feedback specific to this. And again, I was able to point and click or give a lower grade if I wanted to. I can still add comments to the student and submit, and the student will see my extended comments. But the thing I love about this is not just that you can give immediate feedback to students who didn't do what they were supposed to do. You can give feedback to the students who did, rather than just giving them 100 and saying good job. They'll see that you graded the whole thing. All right, now I'm going to go into gradebook. I don't know how much time we've got a very little bit of amount of time, so I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple things I wanted to do. Oops. Under view, if I want to arrange my columns, I can arrange them by assignment name or due date. And that's another good reason to always put due dates in. And that makes it easier to grade. And the little tip I was going to show you, since we don't have a lot of time, is the default grade. If I click here and set default grade, sometimes I just like to drop zeros on the students who didn't do what they're supposed to do. So I can select 0. None of my other students did what they were supposed to do. I'm not going to overwrite my already entered grades. And now I can just drop zeros really fast on all these students. All right. And finally, the other thing I wanted to do out of gradebook was message students to. And if I click that, I can choose haven't submitted, scored less than, or scored more than. Less than is obvious. If students aren't doing what they're supposed to do, I can just tell them they scored poorly. If they scored more than, this is something that a lot of people, a lot of instructors, including myself, forget to do, is to give that positive feedback, to tell the student, hey, you've done a good job. You know, the ones who get the hundreds on the low stakes assignments, a lot of times they just don't get that feedback. So that's a quick and easy way to do it. And I know I am running out of time, so I think we've covered everything, but I do want to, again, sorry, I think my computer's extra slow today. All right, so just remember the student experience. The most important thing in your class is you. All right, so be sure to use your Canvas tools. We went over announcements. We didn't have time for discussions. Maybe that's a whole nother session one day. We did message students, and I did discuss the inbox just a little bit. But again, maybe that's just for another day. We'll try it again next time we do some sessions. Finally, I want you to reflect. I know we don't have a lot of time, but try the 16-day challenge. What are the things that you can do over the next 16 days to improve student engagement? Just think about it, see if you can come up with 1 or 2 things and try to implement them in the next 16 days. All right, if you want to check out the recordings or any of our old recordings or upcoming recordings or schedule, please visit us at edtech.bccs.edu. Again, thank you for joining us. Hopefully somebody can put the evaluation in the chat. Please let me know how I did. And I know I finished in a hurry. Feel free to let me know about that. Again, I'll go ahead and pop the, if you check out that link I just popped in the chat, please feel free to leave an evaluation.